Hey, what's up, everybody? Craig Perry here, and you are listening to Patterns of Power, a podcast to help you interrupt the patterns that are holding you back. Today, I have a very special guest, legend, Dr. Robert Glover. So stay tuned. This is going to be an awesome episode. Okay, here we go. I know how he has impacted my clients. And for you guys listening, right, we've gone chapter by chapter and learning how we see ourselves in his amazing book. So let me introduce Dr. Robert Glover appropriately. He's a therapist, author, and coach dedicated to helping men build authentic relationships, clear boundaries, and purposeful lives. With a PhD in marriage and family therapy and over 4 decades of experience, Dr. Glover's book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, has become a go-to resource for men everywhere. The link will be down below. You must buy this book if you do not have it. He also developed dating essentials for men. So if you are a single man in the dating world, this will be down there below, and leads programs through TPI University, Total Personal Integration. His global training platform, helping men create lasting change, and based in Puerto Rico, he works worldwide helping men stop pleasing, start living, and form deeper connections. Robert, thank you so much for being here.
Craig, nothing else to say, man. You said it all. Except I'm in Mexico. Not
Mexico.
I'm in Mexico. You probably confused it because I'm in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Yeah, I think I did. I did.
But other than that, I'm fine. You can call me the legend, call me the GOAT, whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm as humble as they come.
Well, and you might have heard it in my voice, because when I say something like that, I go back to a specific instances with clients in your book. And let's start kind of maybe a high level. How did you get to this place? Like what inspired you to make this your life calling? I know my shit show of a story inspired me to make this my life calling. How did you get here, man?
Well, it's funny that you asked that particular question, because just the hour before I spoke with you, I was speaking with my financial advisor. And these days, we don't really talk all that much about managing my finances. We talk more about my estate. And he's really big into having communication between the state and heirs, everybody involved. And so he and I had a call, and he's taking me through this questionnaire to kind of help lay out what is, my idea. How do I want things left behind, and how that all wants to, beyond just give this person this much money kind of thing.
Yeah, legacy.
And that's what he asked me about. The very first question was what do you see your legacy from as you move to retirement or to death? Yeah, one of those is going to happen one of these days. And the answer was kind of like to what you're even asking. I said, really, for over 20 years, my work has been with men. I started working on myself 30 plus years ago. No More Mr. Nice Guy is, a foundational piece of the worldwide men's movement. And that's really where I see, if I've got another year, another 10, another 25, another 30 years, that's really where I see my emphasis and my legacy is helping men be their authentic selves, empowering men, helping them live their best lives. And so how I got here really did begin with my own work. 30 plus years ago, my then wife said, everybody thinks you're such a nice guy, but you're not. I can't trust you. You're passive aggressive. You embarrass me. You let me down, blah, blah, blah. She said, you need help. I'm going to leave you if you don't go get help. And I thought, well, you're the one that's unhappy all the time, and you're the one that's always angry and never in a good mood, and I'm just trying to please you and make you happy, but it doesn't work. So I didn't want to lose her, so I went and got help, and actually landed in a 12-step group for sex addicts, because my then wife was telling me I was a sex addict because I wanted to have sex with her, and she didn't seem to want to after we got married. And I landed there and quickly found out I wasn't having enough sex to be a sex addict, but it was really the first therapeutic process I ever got involved with. And I loved it, because even though they were probably all thinking, why is that guy even here? Just because his wife doesn't want to have sex with him, that doesn't make him a sex addict. Because they were pretty hardcore. I mean, there was some hardcore stuff there.
I was the hardcore guy.
It was Sexaholics Anonymous, yes, which is kind of the hardest core version of 12 steps for sex.
The most rigid, right?
The most rigid, yeah. It's a lot like the fundamental Christian church I grew up in, pretty
Mm.
rigid. But for the first time in my life, I just started revealing things about me I'd never told anybody. All my life growing up in fundamental Christianity, growing up with a critical, angry father, growing up with a mother who was training me to be different from my father, growing up with the angry feminism of the 60s. I saw bumper stickers that said, an erection is an act of aggression, man's a rapist. And so I was trying not to be that. So I got in this 12-step group and I'd go, it met like 6 a.m. and I'd go every week. I'd be excited about going because I would just share more things about me that I'd never shared. And, the only response you get is, thank you for sharing, Robert. And then I also got with a therapist and started working on myself. I then joined a men's group led by a female psychologist who'd written some books on sexual shame. And eh, as I began looking at me and my issues as a nice guy, as a marriage therapist, guys were coming to me with their wives and girlfriends, and, I could finish their sentences for them. They say, I'm a nice guy. I treat her better than her ex. I'm raising her kids. I go to private school. I give her everything she wants. It's never good enough. When's it going to be my turn? And she never wants to have sex anymore. And I thought, these guys are just like me. I'm not the only one. So I started a No More Mr. Nice Guy men's group and then started another. And we met every other week, then every week. And I just started writing chapters to give to these guys of what I was learning about me, nice guy syndrome, about men in general. And as I kept giving them these chapters, the men kept saying, you should write a book. You should go on Oprah. This could be a bestseller. And I did keep writing and finally finished the book. Took 3 years to get it published. And now here we are 25 years later. It's still my passion. It's still what I'm all about.
And I love that. I'm going to pause here. For some reason, the camera stopped working. Okay, we got that.
You're back on now,
I'm
camera-wise.
back.
I just kept talking, assuming it would keep recording.
Yep, it did. And great job. Okay, let me get out of this. One of the things, Robert, that we talked about was, and my clients are men struggling with addiction. I started primarily in the sex addiction space. I was absolutely one of those batshit crazy guys engaging in behaviors that threatened my life, my safety, my sanity, and my wife and my legacy. And I certainly got things from it. And it was my entry point into self-help, like you and a lot of others that I've been learning about recently. But there was something about it that felt emasculating. And I was wondering if you can speak to that, recognizing what a wonderful community is and all those great, great, great things. But my clients come to me in this one down addict, years
Yeah.
and years of, let's just unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, well, basically, I guess what we're talking 12 steps, 12-step
Yes.
model. And, if you read No More Mr. Nice Guy, even though there's not, a lot of like 12-step in your face stuff, as you read it, you'll see that it's, for lack of a better term, 12-step friendly, just
Yes.
because it was an early part of my beginning process. Now, what I did also quickly learn within that first 12-step group I was in is that it was a pretty restrictive model and a pretty restrictive way of thinking. And then when I moved over to a therapy group led by a psychologist, and we're still dealing with sexual shame, but it was really built a lot more around connection and a safe place to be vulnerable, which is what I got out of the 12-step program. Was that safe place to be vulnerable and be authentic for the first time in my life.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example. Pretty early on in this process, I was going to the 12-step program. I've seen a therapist, and I think this is before I joined that other men's group that I mentioned. I had a sexual impulse, a dark sexual impulse. It kind of scared me because it was pretty dark, and I'd never had that kind of impulse before. So it did frighten me. Now, prior to me beginning my work as a nice guy, I just kept everything so repressed, just push everything down. And one thing they do say in 12 steps is what you repress gets expressed, and it's going to find a way out.
Yes.
And because it kind of frightened me to have that dark impulse, I went to my 12-step group and I shared with them, this was the dark impulse that I had. And I didn't act on it, but, kind of scared me that I even thought that might be a good idea. And, they go, "Thank you for sharing, Robert." That's all there was. And so I thought, "Okay, that wasn't so bad." I actually revealed something about me that I had a lot of shame, a lot of toxic shame about, and nothing bad happened, right? So then I went to my therapist. I had a session with her just the very next hour, and I began to tell and I told her about the dark sexual impulse, and she just kinda smiled at me, in a caring kinda way and said, "Well, let's explore that and see what that story's about." So we did. And I thought, well, that wasn't so bad either. And then so I was driving home and I thought, well, I got to tell my wife. I'm batting 1,000. I'm a big baseball fan. My team just got knocked out of the baseball playoffs. Seattle Mariners lost to
Sorry for
Toronto.
your loss.
But anyway, I'm batting 1,000. And I thought, even if I go tell my wife, and she gets upset, I'm still 666. 2 for 3 in bat. And I used to tell my then wife that her middle name ought to be Overreact because that's what she did, like, in every situation. And so I go home and I said, "I've got to tell you something." Let's go back to the bedroom. Went back, sat on the bed, and I said, I'm going to tell you, I've already told my 12-step group this, already told my therapist this." And I said, and I told her in detail, here was the impulse I had. I didn't act on it, but I needed to come tell you. And her response, she looked at me and she said, "Number one, that kind of scares me. Number two, it doesn't surprise me." He said, "Number three, I'm glad you told your therapist, your 12-step group, and you told me." And she never brought it up again. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. I thought if you reveal yourself to people, they beat the hell out of you for it. They never let you hear the end of it. There's gonna be a price to pay. And that's kind of how I'd grown up thinking, don't let anybody know anything about you because you'll pay a price. So that was such a powerful, impactful time for me to realize if I had a safe environment where I could reveal what's called toxic shame, this belief I'm bad, I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, and was still accepted and maybe heard other people share similar stories, and I didn't judge them, so I could see why they wouldn't judge me, and even through therapy began to explore what's the underlying dynamics of that. So I'm a big fan of having those safe places to reveal your toxic shame, to hear other people's stories, to be supported, to find a way to release it, to not act on because we all have impulses, and they're just all telling a story of some kind. Back to the 12-step model, that particular version of 12 Steps for Sexual Addiction, again, it had its limitations because it had a really rigid definition of sobriety, and they defined it for you. They defined it had to be, consensual sex between a man and a woman in a married relationship. That was the only thing they considered sober sex.
Right.
And then that's pretty rigid because that rules out gay men. It would rule out people that weren't married. It would rule out even casual but conscious consensual sex.
Yes.
And so it was pretty rigid. And I think maybe the people like people that are attracted to kind of rigid conservative religion because they need someone to give them these really hard, fast rules. I
Yes.
think people might be drawn to that model. Later on, years later, when I split with my then wife, my second wife, I started going back to 12-step groups again just to have a men's group. I needed a men's group to support me through the process. And this time I went back, starting going to SAA, Sex Addicts Anonymous. Basically they let you define your sobriety. Right. So, you had your inner circle. That's my drug. That's where I don't go. Your middle circle, those are your slippery slopes. That's where you be careful of that area. Don't fool yourself there. Outer circle is what you fill your life with to squeeze out those inner circles, right?
Yes.
Connecting with men, going to the gym, taking good care of yourself, meditation, whatever it might be, all those things you put in your outer circle. And the truth is, I'm not a sex addict. I have acted out inappropriately, but the truth is, I'm an approval addict. And anytime that I acted out, it was not the pursuit of sex or sexual gratification. It was a pursuit of, well, it wasn't ever a pursuit. It was always, in a case, a woman showing interest in me and desiring me in a sexual way. And it's kind of like, well, that feels good because I haven't had a lot of that in my lifetime. And so I've responded to a woman who was showing interest in me sexually. It was never because I wanted or needed the sex or had an impulsive sexual nature. My impulsive nature is to seek people's approval and validation. So the truth is, I probably fit more in Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous than an SA or SAA. But when I was going through my divorce with my second wife, what I found was, number one, SAA was almost always all guys. There was one group I went to, had about 20 or 30 guys in every meeting, and one woman consistently showed
Hmm.
up, thinking, what could go wrong with that situation? But I'd go to the Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous meetings, and two things just really drove me away. One was all the people coming in and just draping themselves on each other. Oh, I've missed you so much. I've been so lonely. I've been going. I go, wait a minute. Are we doing our drug here?
Right.
This is about, don't we have it like an, interdependent but differentiated self? I don't need you to make me feel whole and complete. But yeah, so there was that one part. It looked like people were kind of doing their relationship drug at the meeting, right? The second piece of it is that there were a lot of women there, and most of them were just talking about the bad relationships they had with the bad men in their life. And I thought, I've been listening to women talk about their bad relationships with bad women since I was old enough to sit at my mother's side and listen to her complain about my dad and what a bad man he was. So I thought, this really isn't therapeutic for me. So I would stick with the SAA, even though I maybe didn't fit strictly the model that I'm a sex addict. It was a men's group for me. It was a support system for me. I made friends there. I made connections, and I'd go to 2 or 3 meetings a week just to give me a sense of connection while I was going through one of the most difficult periods of my life. Now, here's the one thing that it's 12 steps is not perfect. It's made up with a bunch of imperfect people, a bunch of addicts. But here's one thing that it's easy to fall into the trap to, is that you identify yourself, for lack of a better term, with your pathology.
Right.
We could do that as nice guys. We could say, yeah, I'm a nice guy. And now that's who I am, right? I'm a nice guy because I have covert contracts. I seek people's approval. I avoid conflict. And that becomes our identity. I saw a lot of that in 12-step program, especially with the old time alcoholics, because the
Mm.
alcoholics they're always one drink away from being in the gutter again and suicide and destroying everything. And so, man, they would just white knuckle their way through stuff. Again, I'm making generalizations, because again, I see a lot of value in the 12-step model. But the one thing that I think can work against recovery is when you identify yourself with a thing. I am a sex addict. I am an alcoholic. Now, I think in the beginning, there's value in saying things like that. And I like, when they say I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic, I'm a grateful recovering sex addict. And you think, grateful? Why? Why? Because it was the big stick that woke me up. It got
Yes.
my attention. And
Yes.
this recovery process gave me a pathway forward that I didn't have. So I really value that. And I believe any recovery program should help us recover. It doesn't keep us stuck in a recovery model. There's a Buddhist terminology, a kind of a way of looking at things, that any teaching is just a raft across a river. That we need the raft to get us across the river. But once we get across the river, we don't need to keep packing the raft around with us. And so there's even a book called If You Meet the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him.
Hmm.
And the point is that even the teachings of Buddhism are just meant to get you across the river. They're not meant to be this thing that you pack around with you everywhere you go, like we tend to do with religion. And when we turn 12 steps or any other recovery into more of a religious type thing, that, all right, I got to follow the doctrines. I got to do it right. I got to follow the rules. I can't break the rules. I got to do it the way it's spelled out in the big book, whatever big book you're following. That, I think, blocks true recovery. So
Mm.
I think 12 steps can be a beautiful raft across the river. And it might be a raft that you use for many years to give you community, to give you a sense of connection. I think there's great value in that. But I think if you live your life with your identity being either your pathology or your addiction, well, I'm a sex addict, or I'm an alcoholic, I'm a gambling addict. I think we need to stay conscious of where our slippery slopes are and where we're vulnerable. And like for me, when I got married to my present wife, we're having our 9th anniversary next month. First year of the marriage, we were already struggling. And I thought, I've got to get a men's group because I can't navigate this alone because I already know my slippery slopes. I know I'll give, try to fix, let it build up, get resentful, get passive aggressive. Some woman treat me nice,
And then
boom.
you'll get some attention, the puff of
I'll get
significance, the
exactly,
crack bite
exactly.
of significance, and you get that feeling good when you're low.
I knew me well enough, and I
Yes.
did not want to do that again to somebody that I care. I didn't want to do it to me again. So I found a men's group that I was in for 6 years, and I created my own accountability group out of that I've been for 7 years. We meet every other week on Zoom. We went camping together this summer. These guys know me. They know me inside and out. I've got no secrets from them. When I'm having a good day, they know it. When I'm going through my period of existential angst and wondering what it's all about, they know it. When I'm happy with my wife, they know it. When I'm struggling with my wife, they know it. These men know me. And I needed that, and now here we are coming up on our 9th anniversary. We'll occasionally have our struggles. She occasionally triggers me. I occasionally trigger her. But I was away for 3 weeks. I was in Australia for 2 weeks, up in Seattle, went to visit my granddaughter for her 19th birthday. Just got home 2 days ago. The whole time I was gone, my wife is sending me loving messages, great interchange, occasional naked picture, just and like I was sharing with, a couple of my friends, I said, this is 9 years into a marriage that my wife is still loving and sensual and caring, and I feel the same for her. But I knew if I did not have some sort of support system, we would not have gotten to where we are today. So because of that, I'm a big believer in support systems. And if a 12-step model can serve that purpose, wonderful. And as I said, my one caveat is just be careful of not letting that become your identity of the totality of who you are. We're more than an addiction. We're more than a neurosis that we may have, like nice guy syndrome. We're more than that. And it's too easy to get caught up into, well, I'm this, therefore.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
very limiting. There's kind of my big picture. Again, I love a lot about the 12 steps. And like anything, it has its flaws and its drawbacks.
Yeah. And I want to be clear to everyone listening, like, treat it like a buffet. If you can't afford a men's community and this is what you got, where there's men sharing and there's vulnerability, that's better than not doing it, and you will get value, and that raft will help you. You might need some
Yeah.
support. You might need something else like I did, but I want to stress how important that community is too. So I'm glad you shared that. Thank you.
Again, I'm just such a fan of us men, of all people, but men especially, because we often lack community. When I
Mhm.
went through my second divorce, because of just the trauma, drama bonded nature of the relationship I had with my second wife, that I gave up everything to try to please her and make her happy. And I'd gone to work on that and was working on it and had built male friendships. But it seems like when we went through the divorce, most of the closest men in my life were couples that we shared in common. And then when you go through a divorce, anybody ever been through a divorce? No, you pretty much lose all the couple friends. The men in the relate don't want to side with the guy because it's going to piss their wife off, who's probably siding with the woman. And so I really had very few men in my life. And so getting back into, and again, that 12-step group, and even though I didn't strictly identify as a sex addict, it was such a beautiful community of men showing up, being authentic and real, and going out and having coffee afterwards, or going to a ball game, or, talking about, our divorces. I mean, it was a platform where I could deal with what I need to deal with in community. So I'm a big fan of wherever you can find a safe, non-judgmental community. No matter where we're at in life, especially when we're going through any kind of struggle, don't do it alone. Find community. Get connection to help you.
Yeah, the opposite of addiction is in sobriety. It's connection. That's one of my favorite
I
quotes
love
from.
that. I love that.
So let's, when I'm a latecomer to your book, Robert, and the reason why I think I'm a latecomer to your book, because I was such an asshole. I did not identify with nice guy.
How could you possibly be a nice guy? You were an asshole, huh?
How could I be a nice guy? And now I get it. The hiding, the people pleasing, the fear of conflict. Let's talk about that now. What is a nice guy?
All right, let's talk about what's a nice guy and talk about why an asshole and a nice guy aren't all that different,
Yes.
which might be a surprise. Okay, elevator pitch of a nice guy. A nice guy is a man who, at a very early age, inaccurately internalized a belief that says, I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm bad. That's toxic shame. That's what that is. And a nice guy is trying to do two things. One is become what he thinks other people want him to be, so he'll be liked and loved and get his needs met. And two, hide anything about himself that might get a negative reaction, that might get him abandoned, punished, shamed, scolded, hurt in any kind of way. And usually what nice guys are hiding are their wants, their feelings, their thoughts, their sexuality. And again, anything that gets repressed gets expressed. So a nice guy, as I start out early in the book, real early, are often anything but nice. As my second wife told me, everybody thinks you're a nice guy, but you're not. She said, I'd rather be with a jerk because at least I know the jerk is going to consistently treat me bad. You treat me well until you don't. And then I don't see it coming and it catches me off guard. And I don't know why. Why did you just get passive aggressive? Why did you just put me down? Why did you just cut me? Why did I just find out you'd lied to me about something you didn't need to lie about, right? Why won't you ever have a discussion with me when we need to get all the way through something? The nice guy's often not nice because if he's trying to become what he thinks other people want him to be, there's no real him in there, right? He's a chameleon. He's holding his finger up, see which way the wind blows. If he's hiding anything about him, he's basically dishonest. I used to think I was pretty honest because I didn't tell like blatant lies. But I had a lie coach in my head that constantly
Mhm.
said, tell it this way, leave this part out, or misdirect their attention, or accuse them of something that they did to get their, so they're not. That lie coach would just coach me up and so I was dishonest. And the stuff you leave out, the dishonesty of omission, what you leave out, is just as toxic as any lie that you make up that's not true, right? That you say, well, I accomplished this or I did that. Maybe it's not true. But what the part that you left out, like, oh yeah, I wasn't really at work. I was over off with that woman because she was paying attention to me. We leave that part out, right? Oh, I didn't lie. So the nice guy is often anything but nice, mainly because he's inauthentic. There's no real him in there, so he can't truly be trusted. Not expressing his true wants and needs and desires, not showing his true sexuality, not doing anything that might get a negative reaction. Now, here's where nice guys and jerks, I think, are on the same spectrum. In fact, let's just put them on a spectrum. Over here, I don't know if you can see my right. This is my right
Yeah,
hand
I
over here.
gotcha.
Here's the wussy doormat. That's a nice guy. He's going along to get along, has his covert contracts, he's giving to get, he's avoiding conflict, trying to get everybody's approval. Over here, my left hand, I don't know if you can see it, but there's the asshole jerk. He's the one that doesn't seem to give a fuck about anything or anybody. He's aggressive, he's an asshole, whatever. But what I believe about both these guys is both of them are living in what's called the sympathetic nervous system. That's fight, flight, freeze. Both of them live in this state of anxious anxiety and shame. Okay, what the nice guy's doing, he tends to be in the flight and freeze part, or even fawn, we could add to that, of sympathetic nervous system.
People pleasing
The
fawn, right?
people pleasing,
Yeah.
that's the fawning part. When I was talking with my financial advisor today, he loves AI, and he gave me an example of his AI application talking to him. And she's just the sweetest, conversational, this and that. I go, you just do know that's just ones and zeros that's been programmed to be syncopatic towards you. And he goes, yeah, but I like listening to her. And I go, okay, all right. I said, and she can probably give better financial advice and research than you as well. He goes, yeah, I know that too. And I go, you do know that she's going to make you unemployed at some point. Well, there's other things I can do. Okay. Anyway, so we got off on the syncopathic AI. But anyway, yeah, the people pleaser over here. That person is actually in fight, flight, freeze, but he freezes or runs or hides or fawns to try to manage people and situations outside of him, right? That's me lying to keep the peace. That's me avoiding conflict to keep the peace. That's not never standing up for myself or being assertive if that might rock the boat because I'm in sympathetic nervous system. Over here, the asshole jerk is actually using the fight part of the fight, flight, freeze to manage people and situations. So he's just being outwardly aggressive to try to control people and situations. But both are actually in the same place. And we can actually swing between the nice guy at times when he has a victim puke will swing over an asshole jerk and just say the meanest, most hurtful things or do the most hurtful things, and then have this big panic attack and shame attack and swing back over here and try to make everything good again. So the asshole jerk and the wussy doormat are often one and the same because nice guys will say, Robert, I've read your book, I've watched your YouTube stuff, and I get being a nice guy doesn't work, but I don't want to be, the jerk or the asshole. Where can I find that happy medium? And I go, there isn't one. And I said, there's no tipping point between two toxic extremes. If you're in sympathetic nervous system, you're in sympathetic nervous system. It doesn't matter if you're in it here, or here. None of them are going to serve your purpose in life. We need sympathetic nervous system if there's really a lion chasing us or a semi-truck barreling down on us. Most of life, we want to be in parasympathetic nervous system where we're relaxed, we're calm, we're optimistic, we're not hiding, we're not running, we're not fighting. That's how life should function most of the time. So there's no tipping point between these two extremes on the same spectrum of sympathetic nervous system, of anxiety and shame. We have to actually rise above.
So the whole spectrum, the whole you're not even thinking of the question presupposes includes a misunderstanding of what's really going on, is what you're saying, because it's all fight, flight, freeze, fawn, not good.
Yeah, and fighting in most cases doesn't serve you. Sometimes we need to stand up and fight. Sometimes we need to duck and run for cover, right? Like when I was taking a gun safety course, right? People were asking about, extended, the things you put in the gun to hold all the bullets and all that stuff. How many guns can you pack with you? And the gun instructor basically said, if you need the extended, cartridges, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. You don't want to be in a gunfight, right? You need to be, when I'm taking, self-defense, basically they teach you how in a stressful situation, how to get it down and get the hell out of there, right? They're not actually teaching you how to deck somebody and fight. You may need that, but they'd rather teach you get out of there first. Okay. So no, in most situations in life, we don't want to take a knife to a gunfight, or we don't need a multi, clip in our guns. We don't need to be in that situation. All right. So in most of life, we don't need to be in fight, flight, or freeze. But the nice guy always is, because he's always afraid something's going to go south. Something's going to go wrong. Oh, she's going to get mad at me. She's going to get pissed off. Or, she's going to find this out about me. Or she's going to withdraw. Or she's not going to want to have sex. Or all that stuff. He's trying to manage these situations of people outside of him instead of recognizing whatever happens, I'll handle it. If she's mad at me, I'll handle it. If she withdraws sex, I'll handle it. If she quits talking to me, I'll handle it. If she files for divorce, I'll handle it. Because we will. We will handle it. But the nice guy, because he's still in this childlike fight, flight, freeze, doesn't believe he can. And so a big part of our nice guy recovery, of our growing up, basically, is learning that no matter what happens, we'll handle it, and gaining resources and tools and skills and learning to soothe ourselves. These are the ways we kind of rise above, is learning self-soothing, learning to differentiate, ask for what we want, learning to set boundaries, learning to be more conscious, learning we can remove ourselves from situations that don't serve us rather than trying to fix them or make them better. So it's not finding that happy medium at these two extremes. It's actually getting tools and resources that rise us above that situation and put us on a whole different plane.
So powerful. So powerful. You're vibrating at a higher frequency.
Yeah, it's another way of putting it.
Picking between the two options, which are causing harm, because it's all fear, right? I mean, these are, when I think about I'm holding a pen now. Honey, do you have the pen? No. Like for a long time, there was an automatic gut primal instinct to lie about the stupid lies, which they're not stupid. They come from, childhood and whatnot.
They're childlike, yeah.
But it's like, that's now it's a process. But what's one thing a guy can do to step into their power, to step into their truth? Because I promise you will never be happy unless you do. And this is so scary, right?
Okay.
It's so scary for people.
let's start with the pen. Let's start there. That is one of the places, probably it's one of the first or second things I began in my own personal recovery. I think the first one was beginning to just release my toxic shame, talk to safe people. And very closely related to that was learning to tell the truth to people, learning to be honest.
Practicing.
And practicing, because even though I identified I'm a nice guys are honest, I wasn't. I wasn't. Because when my wife confronted me, they said, you need to get help. The reason she confronted me is that I'd acted out. I'd acted inappropriately. And she found out about a year after I'd actually quit the acting out. And the person told her. To this day, I still don't know why, but I'm glad they did, because it got me into recovery. I realized, okay, I'm too good of a liar. When it dawned on me, I'm actually a really effective liar. I can
Master.
get away with a lot of stuff. And that scared me. I thought, I don't like that about me. So one of the first things I started doing, like, when I went and told my 12-step group and then my therapist, and then I went and told my wife these things. And the funny thing was, when I would tell her the truth, usually is, okay, I don't like that, but thank you for telling me the truth. She was so intuitive. She would know when I was lying. I mean,
Yes.
she'd
They
catch me in a
know.
lie. But here's the deal. She would go, you're lying to me. Here's the truth. And she'd state what she thought the truth was. And I'd be sitting there going, I don't know how she knows I'm lying to her. She's right. I am. But luckily, she guessed wrong about what I'm lying about.
Right. A
So
little.
I had that deniability. Nope, you're
Yes.
wrong. That you're not. That's not. That's not true. That's not. And I'm sitting there going, well, I'm still lying to her, but at least I can, tell her. But she's wrong about that. I still wouldn't tell her the truth. But then what I started doing was just realizing I had to get honest. So I had to start that with safe people. Don't try to get honest starting with your mother, with your partner, with somebody where either you have a big fear of severe consequences and or they have an investment in seeing you in a certain way and not wanting you to change or be different. Go find safe people. It can be a 12-step group. It can be a men's group. It can be a therapist. It can be a coach. It can be a minister or a rabbi.
Or out at a restaurant. Those little micro things where you would normally take it and stuff it down, and just being honest and saying, hey, I didn't get the fries. I ordered the vegetables.
Believe it or not, for a nice guy, that's actually a little bit down the road of even getting to that place. Hey, you didn't bring my order the way I ordered it. And to do that in an assertive, non-aggressive way.
Important observation. I'm really glad you checked me on that, Robert, because you're right. Keep going with the safety. You keep going with the safety. This is great.
Because the line is, here's the deal. We all learned to lie as children because it was a life-preserving skill set, right? Because I was a marriage and family therapist for many years, 25 plus years. And so I did a lot of family therapy. And, parents would come to me and say, my 3-year-old, my 5-year-old, 7-year-old, whatever, lies. And I go, oh, okay, what do they lie about? Well, we'll ask them this, and they said that, but I know it was this. I go, okay. I said, all children lie. Your kid's normal. What? No, he's got to be taught not to lie. And I go, do you tell 100% of the truth to your kid? No, there's something kids just don't need to know. Okay, so you lie to your child. Well, it's different. And I go, okay, you lie to your kid, then somehow think that he shouldn't lie to you. But I said, here's the deal. A child lies to level the playing field. Why? Because the big people are powerful. The small person is not powerful. Big people can do whatever they want to the little person. They can spank him. They can ground him. They can put him in a corner. They can take away his privileges. They can scream at him. The big people in all of culture can do whatever they want to the little people. That's just a fact of life, right? So when you're the little person, the child, number one, you never learn to set boundaries because little kids can't set boundaries with their parents. They can't say, Mom, Dad, stop that. Time out. You can't do that. So what a child does to level the playing field to the best of their ability, being a fairly immature, powerless little creature, is they tell lies. And they have magical thinking. They assume the person they're lying to has no way of knowing the truth of it. Now, are you a parent?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, you know what your kid's done, right? They knocked the thing over, or they broke the lamp, or they spilled something, or they left the light on, whatever. You know that they did. But they're lying to you because they have a magical belief that you'll have no way of knowing the truth. And they're always really surprised. Well, how do you actually know the truth? Well, you're older. You have a little bit more observation skills. You know the behavior and patterns of your child. Okay, but they're lying with a magical belief system that if you don't know the truth, they won't get hurt. They're trying to avoid getting hurt. So, guess what? We're all little people who grow up to be physically big people, but still have a little person's emotional mindset. I can get hurt. I can get in trouble. When I hear an adult, when a guy comes in my office and goes, I'm afraid of getting in trouble with my wife, and I go, you're a fucking adult. Adults don't get in trouble. Kids get in trouble. Your wife's not your mother. She's not your parent, but you're walking around like a little child. So because we still have that mentality of the childlikeness in us, we still have this magical thinking, well, if I just, tell it this way and they don't have any way to find out, I'll be okay. I'll be safe. Now, here's the thing, though. Every time we lie, it actually keeps us feeling powerless and vulnerable because it's like saying they've got the power to hurt me and I've got to lie. So that keeps them feeling like they've got all the power. But one of the beautiful things about learning to tell the truth, every time you tell the truth, it implies I'm powerful enough to handle the consequences. So it's a
Yes.
big shift when we can learn to start telling the truth. Here's what I did. Like I said, I began with safe people. And then I started practicing on people that didn't feel so safe, like my second wife. So what I would start doing is that whenever I would catch myself with the lie coach saying, tell this, leave that part out, I would catch it, come home, tell her, I was going to lie to you. Here's the lie I was going to tell you. Here's the truth of the situation. And it was funny. Again, Miss Overreact never got upset at me when I said, I was going to lie to you. Here's a lie I was going to tell you. Here's the truth. And she go, well, why were you going to lie to me? And I go, because I was scared. She goes, why? I go, because that's who I am. I'm scared of
Right.
you. You get
Right.
mad at me. I don't like that. She goes, I'm just a little girl making noise. And I go, yeah, but it seems scary to me. That's why I lie. So the learning to tell the truth was a practice that helped me feel more empowered to where today, if the life coach ever shows up and says, hey, tell it this way, I go, where'd you come from? I haven't heard from you in years, because I really haven't. My impulse now is just tell the whole truth because I know I'll handle it, because I've built a sense of empowerment around being honest and transparent and authentic. And the truth is, 98% of the time when I am honest, transparent, authentic, there's no painful consequence. Somebody might be disappointed or upset or maybe even withdraw from me for a little while. Telling people that most people I found can handle a difficult truth. They just can't handle being lied to.
Yes.
So to answer your question, yeah, this is a big place to start nice guy recovery. Find the safe people, start revealing you, start telling the things about you you've never told people that you're afraid of telling people, and then start practicing with the people closer to you, and then start practicing with the waiters and the waitresses and saying, hey, I ordered this medium rare. It came well done. I'd like you to recook it. I'm that way in Starbucks. 'Cause I order my coffee in a very special way. I like them to have a iced Americano. I want it pulled over ice, put the ice in the cup first, pull the shots over it, no water, and then that's it. And they fuck that up, at least 50% of the time. It's the simplest drink to make, but their mind is pulling the shots into an empty plastic cup, which
Right.
I don't want because it's melting the plastic with the hot water and then
Yes.
causing, the plastic to get in your drink. And so I just say, would you please make the drink over again? And they go, oh, do you want, then they'll just pour it out and start over with the same cup. I go, please start with another cup. you know, 90% of the time in the Starbucks, they go, sure, and do it. And they want to understand what they did wrong and get it better. Some of the times they get that kind of disgusted look on their face that they got to make me another cup of coffee, but I just smile and thank them. So yeah, even I've learned to, even with the service people, to ask for what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. So powerful. Robert, where can people find you on the web? I want to respect your time. I know you're a busy man. Yeah. How do people get in touch with you? I'm going to put all the
Yeah,
links
I'm
down
down here in
below.
Puerto Vallarta. Just come on down to Puerto Vallarta. We'll hang out.
Count me in, man. I can't
All right,
wait.
come on down. So, okay, two websites, drglover.com, just drglover, has my courses, has my workshops, has my consultation on it. Nation.net, it's my men's membership program. It's about community. I'm all about building community for men. So if men out there looking for a sense of community, level up to the best version of themselves, and we got plenty of recovering addicts in there as well. So Integration Nation.
Yeah, and this is mandatory work. So the people listening, Robert, struggle with sex and porn addiction. One of the thoughts I had a long time ago, I said, you know how I'm going to tackle this problem? I'm going to only address the lying part of it. Now,
Boom.
I'd be leaving something on the table if I only did that, but we would
Good
solve a
stuff.
big chunk of this problem if we addressed the lying.
So find a community, find safe people, and start telling people the things that you don't want anybody to know about you. And it gets easier. In fact, it starts getting kind of exciting over
It's
time.
fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. Thank you, Robert, for being here. Everyone,
Great.
check out Dr. Robert Glover's work. Big influence on my life, big influence on clients of the Mindful Habit. Thank you for all your amazing work, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the other side. Stay tuned. Yeah.